Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today is going to be a little bit different episode. I know today is Wednesday and normally we do the Thursday night football preview, but this week there is no Thursday night football game. So we're going to be mixing up, doing a little bit something different. Before we get going, thank you to everybody that's been a part of this channel so far. I really appreciate all you guys, especially the people that have been commenting, the people that have been supporting me, whether it's on here, on Facebook, on Twitter, and just all together. If you guys are people that are reading my articles as well, I really appreciate all of you and the support you've given me so far. And I hope to make this a very enjoyable fantasy football season with you guys. And with that being said, today we're going to be doing a little bit different video. This video is going to be about, I know this fantasy football season's been a little bit rougher than some other ones, especially when it comes to big time players missing time, being injured. We got the COVID bug, obviously. And this is just kind of a little bit shout out video to that, more or less. But like at the same time, we're going to look at it and it's pretty much like a don't give up, don't lose hope. If your team is like 2-3 or 1-4 or 0-5, just keep on fighting, keep plugging away. If you got injuries, it's not the end of the world. You can go out on the waiver wire, find some guys. We talked about waiver wire video yesterday. There's guys that you can pick up this week that can help you this week. There's plug and play guys like Alexander Madison. Potentially Chase Claypool, some other guys like that, Tim Patrick. These are guys that weren't household names at the beginning of the year, but they're guys that can come in, fill a hole, fill a need, and help your team. Part of fantasy football is being able to play the waiver wire game, and when injuries do happen, adjusting to that. Personally, myself, I had a team, it was a couple years back now, but I had like 5 injuries on my team, and there were a lot of my big name players, and I had to piece together a whole team. And I still was able to make the playoffs because I didn't give up. I didn't quit fighting. And that's something that's really important, especially if you're playing in fantasy football. But like at the same time, remember that this is a game. We are playing this for fun. And at the end of the day, if you're in a league and you put $20 in and first place only wins like $120 or something, it's not that big a deal. Like you don't have to go out. You don't have to go out and attack other people. You don't need to pick on other people in your league. You can be competitive. You can talk a little bit of trash, but not at like the discredit of anybody at all either. And just go out, enjoy your experience, put your best foot forward, and at the same time, some of these people in the leagues are probably your friends. They're probably people you know, and even if they're not, be sure to reach out to these people, see how they're doing in their life, see how their fantasy football team's going. Try to make trades. This is a great time of the year to make trades as well. But without further ado, we're going to get started a little bit. We'll just do a little bit of talking about kind of what's happened this year, especially with players that have missed time. And so I'm going to start out with the quote. Many of you probably already heard this already. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is from the great Jim Valvano when he was fighting cancer. The Jimmy V Foundation has been great over the years. If you guys aren't familiar with this, please go out, check it out, because it is a great foundation. He was a great person in general, and his legacy will live on for a long, long time. But that's kind of the theme of today, is no matter if you have injuries, if your team's been affected by COVID, if your team's been affected by poor performances, you don't want to give up, especially in fantasy football, because your team can still turn it around. It's still early in the year. If you guys need any help at all, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's waiver wires, trades, who should I start and sit? I know a lot of you have reached out to me, especially like in the comments on Twitter, on Facebook as well. And I really appreciate everybody that's done that. Overall, I've been able to help a lot of people. Obviously, no one has a 100% track record, so I'm not going to say I'm perfect. And I'm not going to say I picked the right person every time. Obviously, there's matchups that look good and bad, and sometimes they don't turn out that way as well. Sometimes guys don't get the volume that they're expected to get, and nobody's going to be able to predict everything 100%. If that was the case, we'd all be millionaires from Vegas. But let's get started in here. So I'm just going to go through each position, kind of talk about some guys that have missed time. So at quarterback, we have pretty much 6 guys that have missed time. Cam Newton's is one of the biggest ones, as he had tested positive for COVID. So he missed the game in week 4. We'll have to see if he plays this week against Denver. If he doesn't, obviously there's a lot of good streaming candidates out there this week. A lot of them I talked about in the waiver wire video yesterday as well. Same thing applies to Dak Prescott here. Prayers go out to him. He had that gruesome ankle injury, and he's going to be recovering for months now. He's done for the year. So if you have Dak Prescott, you can look at some of the guys I mentioned yesterday. Even Andy Dalton, like he's coming in, he's taking over the same role. Yes, he's not going to be Dak Prescott, but he could still be a decent fantasy quarterback with some good wide receiving weapons. Their schedule's not the worst in the world, so he's definitely an option there. Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not sure anybody really picked him to be their starter this year, but if you're in a 2 quarterback or super flex league, maybe he was somebody you had to rely on. He's had a rough year. Then he had that ankle injury. Then he didn't look good in his first game back. He's probably a guy to be a little bit more patient with. But if there's somebody else out there that you can swap him for or pick up, be open to this. A lot of fantasy football is being open to new players and new players coming onto the scene because it's not everything we predicted at the beginning of the year. Sam Darnold, Drew Lock are kind of in the same category. They both had shoulder problems, and they're going to be missing time. Most of these guys are going to be 2 quarterback or super flex leagues. And then you obviously have Tyrod Taylor, who had the unfortunate situation of getting his lung punctured. And I know it did lead to Justin Herbert, who's been great for fantasy, obviously. But if you were somebody that's kind of counting on Tyrod Taylor, hopefully you had Herbert or were able to pick him up as well. Then we'll move over to running backs. And honestly, there's been a lot of running backs that have been hurt this year and missed time. And this is just the list of pretty much people that have missed time or are pretty much going to miss time. There's been other running backs that have been hurt and it affected their performance as well. So we got Christian McCaffrey, obviously number 1 pick. He's been out without a high ankle sprain. He's going to come back. He's going to help a lot of teams once he does come back. Hopefully he's fully healthy. Hopefully he doesn't re-aggravate that injury. But if you're a guy that had McCaffrey, hopefully you were able to pick up Mike Davis or somebody else in the meantime to get you by. Like I've been saying, it's all about being able to get by. You got to look at the season 1 week at a time. You can't look at the big picture. It's the same thing that NFL teams do. They look at each game as 1 week. So every game, they're just trying to go 1-0 in every game. We got to take that approach and put it forward in fantasy football as well. Obviously, you have Saquon Barkley, who tore his ACL done for the year. He was somebody like you fill in and you use one of these waiver wire running backs that you pick up. And hopefully you guys were able to get one that can help you. If you need help with any more running back situation, just feel free to let me know. Miles Sanders obviously missed it at the beginning of the year. Dalvin Cook's going to end up missing this week. Chubb and Austin Eckler are both out for multiple weeks right now. So Chubb might have been a little bit harder to replace. Eckler, you kind of had Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson in the same backfield. Chubb, Dearness Johnson looked like he was going to be a little bit of something. Didn't quite do it last week, but we'll have to monitor that situation going forward. James Conner didn't particularly miss a game, but he did get hurt that first week, and it did affect his performance. Then we had Raheem Mostert, who hurt his knee. He was out for a couple weeks, but he came back real strong. Le'Veon Bell is an interesting one. He had the hamstring injury. He really hasn't helped anybody yet. The breaking news was that the Jets did release him last night, and he's a guy that's still talented. He's gonna help your team eventually here. And if he's out there on your waiver wires, if somebody drops him after he gets cut, he's definitely a guy you want to pick up and stash because depending on where he ends up, he's going to have value. Marlon Mack, obviously Achilles injury at the first game of the year, so he kind of hurt you. He was probably not somebody you were expecting to do too much, but at the same time, he was a nice fill-in option if you needed him. Tariq Cohen had an ACL injury as well. He's more valuable in PPR formats. But this is just a list of guys, honestly. Cam Akers did have that rib injury. I know a lot of people picked him in the 5th or 6th round. I was never high on him. But he's a guy that was pretty easily to replace because he was never going to get that giant workload. Phillip Lindsay, kind of the same way as Cam Akers. He had that turf toe. He's been missing some time, but now he's coming back. Hopefully he can come back. And supposedly Melvin Gordon did have a DUI today. So I don't know if there's going to be any legal troubles or troubles with the NFL with that. If that does affect him, Phillip Lindsay could see some pretty good run here. Zach Moss, unfortunately, kind of had that turf toe injury as well, and it's been hurting him quite a bit. He's a guy that if he gets healthy, he could make a difference. But at this point, he's kind of like on the chopping block of whether you want to keep him or not. Just depends on your league, what options you have available. Then we obviously have Sony Michel and Damian Harris. Harris was out to start the year. Michel's on IR now. So they kind of swap roles. But they're both guys that aren't super great, but they could be useful like on bye weeks. Then we got wide receivers that missed time. So pretty much the top 3 wide receivers have been injured at some point this year. So Michael Thomas had that high ankle sprain, so he's done about nothing this year. Devontae Adams started out hot, then he had the hamstring injury. And then you have Julio Jones with his hamstring injury as well. Then you come down to Chris Godwin, his hamstring injury. that Mike Evans was banged up. I don't think he's ever missed a week technically, but he's been banged up all season. You got Kenny Galladay, who missed the first couple of weeks with his hamstring injury. For the Giants, you had Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate both missing time as well. All of Philadelphia's wide receivers have been pretty much hurt at some point this year. Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor, Alshon Jeffrey. Jackson and Jeffrey should be coming back soon. So maybe they're guys you want to stash, see what they do, and they could help you going forward. Just have an open mind with that. Deontay Johnson, unfortunately, has been concussed. Then he hurt his back this week. So there's been a couple games that he hasn't finished, and he might be somebody that's been hurting you. So at this point, you kind of have to take an open mind with him. He's not a guy you need to start every week at this point in time until we know that he is good to go. And then we had Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards. They both missed some time. Henry Ruggs has flashed this past week. He's probably a guy that's out there on some waiver wires and you can pick up right now. Man, playing good matchups though. Cortland Sutton obviously was somebody we thought would be pretty good this year. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type. But he's done for the year. KJ Hamler's also been banged up with his own hamstring injury. But that's what I'm saying. When people get hurt, other people step out. This is where you find the Tim Patricks of the world. Christian Kirk, I know a lot of people drafted him pretty high. Not pretty high, but higher than I thought he should have gone, and he's been injured, and he hasn't seen the snap share this year. He hasn't been seeing as many snaps this year, so he's definitely something that I'm looking out for. Maybe if something happens in Arizona, maybe he gets to step up, or maybe it opens up an opportunity for somebody else. Then we have Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. It looks like they're both finally healthy now, but they both had injury problems of their own. Deebo we didn't know going into the season around draft time anyways, but they're definitely somebody. As they get healthy, as Jimmy Garoppolo gets healthy, they can move forward and help your team. Unfortunately, DJ Chark had missed one game with a chest injury, then he rolled his ankle this past week. He's a wide receiver, very talented, and he helps open off their offense quite a bit. But if he's not able to go going forward, then you can also look at options like Keelan Cole, Laviska Shenault. Like I said, every time somebody goes down, somebody else steps up in one way or another. Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman Jr. This really killed the Colts passing attack because T.Y. Hilton's not cutting it at all this year. And Zach Pascal hasn't stepped up either. So, most of the time, guys step up, but in this case, nobody has. A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Adam Humphries, they have all missed time. Brown came back last night, looked very good. Davis looked all right when Brown was out. And Humphries, he's just filling in his own role. Then we have the Jets wide receivers. Brashad Perriman's played 1 or 2 games this year. Denzel Mims hasn't played at all, and then Crowder missed a couple weeks as well himself. Crowder's definitely a guy, if he was dropped when he was hurt and you picked him up, you're very happy. Perriman's a guy, maybe he comes on late in the year like he did last year. Then we get down to John Brown, who missed this week, AJ Green, who's got a hamstring injury now. Things aren't looking too good with him in Cincinnati, so maybe that opens the door up for somebody like T. Higgins for you guys. Could open up the door for somebody like Mike Thomas or Auden Tate as well. Maybe John Ross comes back to life, especially if A.J. Green is not with the Bengals anymore. Sounds like he might get traded, honestly. Mike Williams, he had been banged up for the beginning of the year, but he's definitely a guy like waiver wires like I talked about. He's somebody that's definitely worth picking up at this point because he is very talented. Herbert can throw the ball deep. So maybe a lot of people got tired of Mike Williams getting hurt. Maybe they let him go. He's definitely somebody that can help your team. Sammy Watkins has battled with some injuries of his own right, concussion, and then I can't remember what his injury was this week, but looks like he's going to miss a little bit of time. But he's somebody that's always kind of been hurt. So when you draft him, you kind of know that going in. Then last but not least, we got tight ends that missed time. So George Kittle missed a little bit of time. He come back. He looks real good. He's going to be the tight end 1 or 2 again this year. So hopefully tight end's a pretty easy position to fill in normally when somebody gets hurt. I know this year tight end hasn't been great overall. So a lot of it's been streaming and picking the guys with the right matchup and that have a chance to score touchdowns. Then we had Jared Cook. He had that groin injury, I believe it was. He missed 1 or 2 games, and he came back. He looked pretty good this past week in general, so he's somebody you can probably play going forward. Dallas Goedert, unfortunately, he broke his ankles, and he's out for a little while. When he comes back, we'll have to see if he's the same player, but by then, Philadelphia should have more pass catchers available to them. So he's probably somebody you're not crazy about. Somebody you could probably replace pretty easily. Noah Fant was showing us a little bit. Then he hurt his ankle as well. When he comes back, he's definitely somebody that could be picked up. Maybe people get tired of him, waiting on him being injured, and you can pick him up and stash him as well. Jack Doyle was hurt a little bit. He honestly hasn't done anything this year, so we're not too worried about him. A great opportunity came from Blake Jarwin getting hurt, tearing his ACL and being done for the year. That opened up Dalton Schultz for us. And then we had O.J. Howard tearing his Achilles. This is honestly something that could help Cameron Brate. Maybe Cameron Brate's a guy that you can look up if you're a tight end needy team, and he could probably help you at some point throughout the season. David Njoku, he was hurt early on in the year, I believe his knee injury, and now he's come back. If he's a guy that gets involved in the offense, he's definitely somebody that can help out your team as well. Then we got Trey Burton. Trey Burton missed the first like three or 4 weeks, if I remember correctly, on IR. And he's come back and he's gotten pretty much 5 targets a game for the Colts. He's definitely somebody like in a PPR league, with tight end needy team. You can try him out, stash him on your bench, see what he does. CJ Uzama obviously tore his Achilles as well. Opened up the door for Drew Sample. He's been kind of hit or miss himself. Then we had Jordan Akins started to look like he was going to do something for the Texans. Then he's been hurt himself as well. I believe concussion and ankle injury. But Darren Fells did take advantage of that opportunity last week. Dawson Knox, we saw him get a concussion. He hasn't done too much in his second year. I know some people did like him going into the year. And Tyler Croft was able to take advantage when he was out, so he got 2 touchdowns. So there's been a lot of good. There's been a lot of bad. And with some of the bad, some of these injuries, it has opened up the door for other guys. Part of it's just being able to adapt and being flexible, figuring out where your team needs help, and going out on the waivers, going out in trades, and being able to get that help. But that's pretty much all I got for this video. I know it's not a typical video for me, but it's something that I kind of want to put out and just more than anything kind of thank you guys and offer more help to you guys. I know some of you guys might be struggling. I got teams myself. I'm not going to lie. I got teams myself that are dealing with a bunch of injuries, and I've had to scrape the barrel and waivers and free agency, try to make some trades. I know it's not the funnest thing in the world to do, but I'm out there doing it. I'm able to help you guys as well. And any advice you guys would like, just feel free to reach out in the comments. Feel free to reach out to me at CoachCraigSports@gmail.com, on Twitter at CoachCraigSport, or on the Coach Craig Sports Facebook page. I'd really appreciate it if you guys did, and I will do my best to help you guys as much as I possibly can. But with that being said, that's all I got for this video. If you guys liked and enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It will help build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports. And if you're a new or current subscriber who has yet to do so, also hit that notification bell. It'll let you know every time I put up a video. Like I've been saying, put up about 5 videos a week and a live stream on Sunday if I'm able to. Not sure if I'll be able to do it this weekend. Got a couple other things going on in my life right now that I need to take care of first. But going forward, I'll be trying to look at doing that every Sunday if I'm able to do so. With that being said, that's all I got for this video. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Hopefully you're staying positive throughout this fantasy football season, and have a great rest of your day.